Thank you, John, for that. I'd just like to, as a Garangarang man from southeast Queensland, grew up in Bundaberg, which a lot of people may have heard of, probably all the wrong reasons. But I'd like to just acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the great warm welcome which we received this morning, the prayer, pay my respects to elders both past and present, and also special acknowledgement to all the elders in this room here that are with us today who've put in so many years and hard work to get us to be able to share and laugh and feel proud of Aboriginal community control health, and thank you for your contribution and continued contribution. It's a little bit daunting for me. There's been so many great speakers, and I'm not from the Northern Territory, and I think everyone who's graced this stage has been from the Northern Territory. But can I say, as an Aboriginal man who's predominantly lived in the southeast seaboard and of Australia, Northern Territory, Alice Springs has always resounded in any conversation around Aboriginal affairs. And the leaders and people which have advocated for your communities in Canberra and Sydney and Melbourne, where some of the other big national meetings have been held over many years, have represented very well, and not only just represented the Northern Territory fight, but has been a great leader in many ways of helping move forward the nation and other Aboriginal communities in inspiring and driving for a higher level of accountability by the government and more services in our communities. So I'd just like to say thank you. It is a great privilege, I think, for everyone here that we can actually sit here and celebrate and be a part of 20 years for AMSANT, 40 years of Congress. These anniversaries don't come around very often, and I'm sure that every person who has been a part of either of those organisations when they first was established or first talked about around a campfire or a kitchen table would have had probably would never have thought they were going to be back here in 20 to 40 years celebrating and going over the great journey which has been demonstrated or showed to us this morning. So I'll get into my speech. My presentation today is more about where we are nationally, what NACCHO sees as importance, and obviously to see where Aboriginal community control our health sector, 150 services on a national landscape, how that fits. I don't need to tell many people here in this room today, but we do know that by putting the resources, and we've seen this morning, the resources in the community controlled, Aboriginal community controlled health, it has the greatest impact. Not only are we, as in the previous government's terminology, not only are we closing the gap between Aboriginal and mainstream Australia in the health, we're also provide that employment of so many Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, training opportunities, economy or resources back into households and the families, and that only strengthens our communities where our community-controlled Aboriginal health services are located. 20 years of AMSANT, 40 years of the Central Australian Aboriginal Congress is remarkable, especially when we think of those years, and if we think how tough it is now. I'd hate to think what it was like 40 years ago. I was only very young back then. But to be able to fight in a climate where even being recognised as Aboriginal, the importance and even being considered as the first people of this country was such a massive journey in itself, and a fight, let alone trying to express the importance of health. We'll hear, I'm sure, plenty of other great examples of the work which has been done over the next couple of days, and the presentations. Walked around outside, and so many of those, the stalls that are there is an example of the work that has been done across Aboriginal health. The amazing work is being done across many of our member organisations, and many of us in the room today will know firsthand that Aboriginal community-controlled health services has tremendous flow-on effects to our communities. But at this time, our great sector, which we've heard so much about, is facing a number of challenges, both externally but also internally, as we see state and territory and federal government policy makers, budget analysts, bureaucrats and politicians are all trying to find ways to find budget savings in the existing budget lines. However, while the government is doing this, our community members are requiring comprehensive primary health services at an ever-increasing level. We have all worked hard for decades to educate, inform and create better access to our people to take control of their health. This work has been embraced by our community members. We've seen a massive increase of Aboriginal people accessing their services and wanting high-quality, first-class Aboriginal comprehensive primary health care services. But unfortunately, it comes at a time when government treasury is attempting to make savings. Our health needs to be given priority, and though we're looking at how we can be more efficient internally with our services without sacrificing quality, continued investment in line with the level of need from both state, territory and federal government into Aboriginal health must be committed to now. Aboriginal community-controlled health organisations, we're combating the current appalling health trends. Don't need to go into those statistics. Most people live and breathing that and working with that on the ground. At the same time, we're also providing our next generation the right to health, so our children and their children can dream and learn and achieve in ways that we as children would never have thought about. This is all done at the same time as we preserve our culture, our law, LORE, and history by providing holistic healthcare for our elders. A report we launched early this year, when I say we, Nacho, at the National Press Club, articulated and demonstrated that the multiplier effect of our services in terms of health, employment, training, improving participation in of our people is significant. Our services, as we would know, are large-scale employers. A lot of times we're the main income for communities. Our 150 Aboriginal community controlled health services, we employ over 5,500 people. 3,500 of those are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. The ripple effect can no longer be underestimated, and so our services, your service, is providing the solutions for our people. As we say at the national level, Aboriginal health in Aboriginal hands, providing culturally appropriate, culturally safe, holistic healthcare which our people want to use. A combination that no other health provider in the world can deliver except for us, Aboriginal community-controlled health organisations who have the clinical know-how and the cultural and rich local knowledge and wisdom. We are seeing demand for our service rising at 6% a year as more and more of our people seek out the care of local services where they know they'll be treated without judgment but with respect and dignity. And as a result, it is our services that are making the biggest gains in improving Aboriginal health in Australia. I'm not going to go through all the statistics because I don't have time for that, and I think some of the statistics which has been presented previously show you what has happened in the Northern Territory. It's not too far different across the nation around how we're tracking. And so again, we see that our services are kicking the goals that matter the most in the struggle to improve the health status between Aboriginal and white Australians. We're working and dealing with health, we're creating employment, we're giving training and building careers of our people, we're improving the quality and the techniques of research, and we're strengthening community governance. In achieving this, we're importantly raising the aspirations of our young people and the pride of our Aboriginal community-controlled health services that it brings to our communities. And today is a small snippet of examples of the pride which is generated when we talk about 20, 40 years of services. In my job, I'm quite honoured that but I've been elected to represent that I get the privilege of meeting and visiting so many Aboriginal community-controlled health services across this country. And if that's the only thing I had to do, that would be the best job in the world because it is so inspiring. You walk in and people are proud to show you their service, they want to, and the people that are waiting in the waiting rooms and the staff that are employed and the board members, it is unmatched. And that's something which, for so much hardship our communities go through, it's good to have an organisation that you can look to for that strength and reassurance. As we are still fighting for our financial security, despite everything that I've mentioned, we are still fighting for that financial security and for a long-time investment that goes beyond a term of government and gives real sustainability of seeing the future health of our people at least on parity, hopefully better, than the rest of Australia. I believe the next 6 months will be telling. At NACCHO, we're pushing hard for funding agreements greater than both our current, most people here would have currently 12 months, or our previous 3-year funding agreements. We believe, and we've been pushing that, we need to have longer commitments and longer agreements so we can plan our services better. This is also while we're tackling the issue of trying to reduce the masses of administration red tape which divert many services from providing care. We're continually lobbying at the national level that any co-payment will only disadvantage much needed health outcomes. Exploring new ways and using the technology which is available to us, I think, is a very important part. I know here in Northern Territory you're taking the lead on this, and I think there's so much more that can be done as we work in this new world of technology, which I don't fully understand, but I'm sure there's plenty of people that could make that work for us. Also creating new and strengthening current partnerships as we move into this new age. I'm sure 20 years ago, 10 years ago, there was probably organisations or services or businesses which we didn't think had any relevance to health, but times are changing and we need to look at these new partnerships and take advantage of those. NACCHO is committed in working with the Assistant Minister of Health, Fiona Nash, and her staff as we collectively work on ensuring the implementation of the National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Health Plan, which was launched by the Labor government in 2013. We want to move from the words on paper to action on the ground by underpinning any action to the driving force and strengths of Aboriginal community control. Having a plan is important, but ensuring the plan is resourced and is held accountable to targets is vital. The next 3 to 6 months, to say the least, is of great importance, as we all wait to hear from the Minister about the level of commitment from the Australian Government to our sector and Aboriginal health on a whole. And like any champion organisation or team, when faced with adversity, which we've heard before, these aren't easy days, it's very important, it's always important, to look internally to examine areas that we can improve and or opportunities that we have not fully utilised. NACCHO, together with our state and territory affiliates, and AMSANT's one of those, are collectively taking steps towards doing exactly this. We're looking internally to address areas where improvement can be made and opportunities can be embraced. Together, we are a strong and powerful entity unmatched by any group or sector in this nation. If there's ever a time for us to think and act strategically with one voice, it is now. We have a structure across local, state and national levels. We have great support from other state and national health bodies. The immediate future will prove to be nothing short of extreme importance, not only for member services today, but for future years. Aboriginal community control health has proven over 4 decades that we are the vehicle in addressing Aboriginal health and the cultural connection between clinical and traditional healing of the physical, emotional and spiritual well-being of our people. And just like what we've already heard this morning through AMSANT and Congress's journey, we must bring the mob together to celebrate, to learn from past successes and, importantly, focus on the goals ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. And we, as alluded by one of our, I think, Marion or Donna this morning, alluded to that you will not be seeking re-election as the NACCHO chairperson next week, I think, the AGM, NACCHO in Cairns. A lot of our member services won't be able to get to that, unfortunately, but while we've got you here, on behalf of AMSANT and all our member services, We want to thank you for the leadership, the passion, the commitment that you've provided at that national level as the chairperson of NACCHO. You've obviously, it's been difficult times, as our previous speakers have said, and I think you've handled that well, and we wish you well in your new position as CEO of Reconciliation Australia, and hopefully you can get back to the Territory in that capacity and share that sort of knowledge and help us progress that agenda as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together to thank Justin. It's a big job, and he's done it well.